For any scene in which we need to render images to disk, whether that be a still image or a sequence of animated frames, we should create a camera in order to be the viewpoint for the audience. And that's not the same as the perspective view here. The perspective view is intended for the user or the designer, the artist, to be able to look around the scene from any point of view. The camera is the audience's point of view. Let's go ahead and create our camera. Go to the Create panel and choose Cameras. There are 3 buttons here, and that would seem to indicate that there are 3 different types of cameras. However, in 3ds Max 2016, there are actually only 2 types of cameras. There's a so-called physical camera and a standard camera. And either one of those comes in a targeted or untargeted version. A targeted camera has a look-at point or an aim point, and a free camera does not have a look-at point or a target. You can actually convert a camera back and forth between targeted and free. These buttons just create the camera with that particular parameter set appropriately. I'm going to create a standard camera, not the physical camera, because it's simpler for us to work with. And I'll opt to create it in targeted mode. Click on the Target button. Go over to the top view. You will want to create your camera either in the top or the perspective view. That way it'll be oriented correctly with the world. To create the target camera, click in the lower half of that top viewport and hold the mouse button down and drag upward. And when you release the mouse, you've created the target point. And then right-click to exit camera creation mode. To see what the camera sees, we should load it into a panel. We need this top view because it's our plan view. We need the front view because that's the one in which the objects are oriented. We need the perspective view, as I said, so that we can look around the scene from a sort of director's point of view. We don't really need the left panel in this case, so I can sacrifice that and load the camera into that panel. I can do that in a couple of ways. One is to click on the viewport label, here labeled left, and then choose Cameras, Camera 001. And now that camera's loaded into that panel. I could also load it with a keyboard shortcut. So if I switch this back out to left, I can load that camera by pressing the C key on the keyboard. And if you have more than one camera in your scene, you'll get a pop-up window asking you which camera you want. Once we got that camera loaded into a panel, let's change its display mode. We want to see this in shaded mode. Press the F3 key, and now we've got it in a realistic shaded mode. To manipulate the camera, we can do that either in a first-person or a third-person mode. And to do it in a third-person way, what you do is you move the object, that is the camera, or its target, in a different view, such as the top view here. I can choose the Move tool, click on that camera, and then position it. And now I'm operating in a sort of third-person method. If I click on the target or aim point, I can position that as well and cause the camera to look in different directions. If I click on the line that joins the two, then I'm selecting both of them. That's the third-person method for aiming a camera. The first-person method is to use the viewport itself. And you can use one of the keyboard shortcuts, and that is the middle mouse button to position the camera and its target. So just hold down middle mouse and you can track left and right and pedestal up and down. In a camera view, if you want to dolly forward and back, or orbit or pan, use the icons in the lower right-hand corner of the 3ds Max interface. So if I want to dolly forward and back, I'll click on the dolly camera button and then drag in the view. Notice that the camera is moving, but the target is not. And this can get you in trouble because you can actually move the camera to the other side of the target. If you don't want that to happen, you can just go down here to the viewport navigation icons, hold down the dolly camera button, you get a flyout, and choose the third of those three buttons, in which you've got a plus sign in red and an arrow in red. And in this mode now, you move both the camera and its target or aim point at the same time. You won't have to worry about it flipping around like that. To orbit the camera, use the orbit tool here. So orbit camera, and then click and drag, and you'll see that the camera is orbiting around its aim point. I've currently got angle snaps turned on, so let me turn that off, and I'll get a smoother rotation to the orbit command. There's a useful tool that's kind of hidden in a flyout here. If we click and hold on that orbit camera button, there is a pan camera variant of that. So choose pan camera. And now when you click and drag, the camera stays in one place, but it just turns left, right, and up and down. Let me back out a little bit here in this top view. So you can see camera stays in one place and the aim point or target moves around as that camera rotates. That's the pan camera tool. Very useful. Okay, that's the basics of creating a target camera and viewing it through a viewport.